John, could you mute for a moment?
You know what?
John, could you mute your...
Do you want me to mute?
Yes, that'd be great. For just until after I introduce you, that'd be great.
Okay.
Perfect. Good evening, Norwegian Commercial Club. Welcome to the February meeting. And now it is my pleasure to introduce President Debbie Larson.
Well, thank you, Eric. And welcome everyone to our second meeting of the year. This is February 25th, and I am Debbie Larson, your president of the Norwegian Commercial Club. To those of you who were on our first virtual social hour at 5:30, I hope you had a good time. I joined for a few minutes, but had to jump off so I could be prepared here. And right now, as much as we all want to get together, and hopefully that social hour helps a bit. And to those of you who weren't on, hopefully you'll join the next time, and we will certainly let you know when that's going to be. But the state guidelines still require that we meet virtually. Only 5 people from a maximum of 2 households are able to get together for any kind of organizational meeting. So we just have to wait. But until then, we will give you updates whenever they happen until we can meet again. So in the meantime, make sure you use this Norwegian Commercial Club YouTube channel to be able to view us. So at this time, I would like to observe a moment of silence, followed by the ringing of the bell in memory of members who have passed away. Tonight, we remember John Kelly, lifelong member of the Sea Scout ship Yankee Clipper, which the Norwegian Commercial Club has had a long time affiliation with. Thank you. So just a few announcements. Since we didn't have a fisherman's night in December, we don't have funds for donations as we usually give to local organizations this year. So the board of Norwegian Commercial Club voted to start a donation fund. And the organization will match up to $2,500 towards this fund. I'm going to let Corey talk more about how you can help with that. Since we do have a scholarship fund set aside from previous donations to that specifically, we are able to continue with that, and we'll be reaching out to several places, schools and other organizations, to get the word out as soon as possible to applicants, to as many as we can. So if you know of anyone that's getting ready to go to school or getting ready to go to a trade school, please let them know about this. Let us know about these good candidates. So the 17th of May committee has been meeting, and we are going to have a virtual luncheon. Tim Hunter is going to put that together for us, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll be able to order a box lunch to eat as you watch the program, and we'll let you know more about it, so please stay tuned. So now I'm going to ask Corey Nelson, our treasurer, to give us an update about membership, finances, and how you can make donations. Welcome, Corey.
Thank you. So yes, donations this year. So we do need to raise some money if we are going to maintain a lot of our donations that we've been doing in the past. So a couple different ways. Of course, you can always mail a check to our address, which is the same address as the lodge here. And then you can also donate through a button on our website. So that's a nice, easy way. It goes through PayPal. You don't need a PayPal account. Debit card, credit card works fine too. So we've already gotten some donations in. So that's the good part. So we'll at least be able to do something this year. And then, like Debbie said, we need those applications for scholarships. So anybody you know who is going to go to school or is going to school, encourage them to apply. Yeah, we want as many as we can get. So that's all I got for this month. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey. So be sure to stay with us until the end tonight, because again, we will be drawing for our member draw to see who wins our money membership draw. So you must be present to win, which means in this case, we will draw 3 names and you have to call in, and whoever calls first wins. Last month, Victoria Hunter won. And so our fund will start over again at $20. The phone number is 425-802-0679. So at the end of the meeting, after our speaker has spoken to us, we'll give you that number again and we'll draw 3 names and wait for your call. So now I'm going to turn this back over to our Vice President, Eric Peel, who is going to introduce our speaker for the month. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. We're thrilled to have this evening speaking to us John Lundin. John is a lawyer, a historian, and an award-winning author who's done extensive research and writing about Washington and Idaho history. He splits his time between Seattle and Sun Valley, and he is a founding member of the Washington State Ski and Snowboard Museum. And he also has been working with the National Nordic Museum recently in preparing an exhibition about ski jumping coming up in the spring. John most recently published a book titled Ski Jumping in Washington State, a history of ski jumping in Washington State, a Nordic Tradition. It was just published here in February. It's been getting a lot of recognition in the press, and so we're thrilled to have him here tonight to talk to us about this sport and about the role that Norwegians played in getting the sport going here in Washington State. John, welcome to Norwegian Commercial Club, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Eric. Let me bring my presentation up. Okay. Hope everyone can see that. Well, Eric, thank you, and thanks for everyone who's joining in tonight. This is the COVID time, and we, as was said, we do everything by Zoom now. I do quite a bit of lecturing on various history topics, and I really miss the energy you get from a live audience. There's a lot of synergy and interchange, but this is our reality for a while, and we're going to have to live with it. And frankly, it's so easy. We're all sitting at home that some version of this, I suspect, will continue on. Well, tonight I'm talking about not only the book, Ski Jumping in Washington State, a Nordic Tradition, but that's also the name of the exhibit that opens on April 17th at the National Nordic Museum. And it's going to be a very interesting exhibit. The book is kind of the centerpiece and a preview. As Eric said, it went to for sale. It's published on February 1st. It's available to buy in the gift shop at the National Nordic Museum, local bookstores, national bookstores, like Amazon and the rest. I'm donating my author's profits to both the Nordic Museum and the Washington State Ski and Snowboard Museum. So if you get it, you're getting, I think, an interesting book, and you're making a contribution to two terrific organizations. The book is, it has 120 historic pictures. And I have to say that I think it's the most complete collection of ski jumping pictures ever assembled. I not only scoured the state for pictures, but I went outside the state, the Library of Congress, Associated Press, California Ski Library run by a friend of mine that has some terrific pictures. I went to UW Special Collections, MoHi, Tacoma Public Library, Greater Leavenworth Museum, and a whole variety of other institutions. I got a number of pictures from private collections, including from Alf Engen and Gus Rahm's family. So I think it's a pretty interesting batch there, and I think everyone's going to enjoy it. Let me tell you what I'm going to do tonight. This is kind of the first draft of the introductory presentation I'm giving on April 24th at the National Nordic Museum. There I have 90 minutes, and we have 30 minutes. So what I can do tonight is just give you a little preview, an overview, and go through some of it, but we'll skip portions of it, and that'll just give you incentive to listen in on the 24th and come and see the exhibit when it opens. Let me, having a technical issue here. It's not letting me advance the slide. Let me see what I can do about that.
Hi, John. John, you might just unshare and share again. That might help.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. Stop share. We'll try it again. Try it again. We actually did a little dry run ahead of time, and it seemed to work at that point. Apologies for these technical errors. Let me try that again. Share screen. Well, apologies for this.
John, why don't we try one more thing? Why don't you,
here we go.
There we go. Here we go.
Yeah, I think we're in operation. Just a brief word about the Ski Museum. We opened on December, in 2015. We're at the Snoqualmie Pass. It's a small but highly organized facility. It's very high-tech and interactive, and we cover the whole gamut of skiing in Washington: alpine, Nordic, ski jumping, backcountry. We have exhibits on Washington ski manufacturers, all the ski areas in Washington, including lost ski areas. And kind of the centerpiece of our exhibits is a large one on Washington's Olympians. We have 39 Olympians, including 15 medalists, and a lot of memorabilia. We have actual medals from some of the Olympians, and we have this gorgeous big World Cup that Phil Mayer has loaned us, and that's Phil there with me. He's holding a copy of my first book, what was Early Skiing on Snoqualmie Pass. This is the theme of our exhibit that opens again on April 17th. And it really explores ski jumping as an expression of cultural pride of Scandinavians and a way to connect their adopted land, and uses ski equipments, photographs, film clips, and descriptions of ski jumpers themselves about their sport and how jumping created a bond between the Nordic immigrants in the Northwest and made it the most popular form of the sport in the early days of skiing here. So I think it's going to be interesting, and I hope you all come by when it actually opens. In the book, I cover the whole range of the origin of ski jumping in Norway. I'm preaching to the choir here. I'm sure most people know the origins, and there's some terrific quotes in there. Ski was just really a part of normal life for Norwegian kids. As Anson said in his book, getting from one farm to another in Norway often involves climb on skis up one side of the hill, and ski jumping developed as a means of clearing obstacles when skiing down the other side. So, as most of you know, the Norwegian kids learned it early on. Birger Ruud described how the kids learned the art of ski jumping. He said in Kongsberg, where he grew up, each afternoon, the whole village gathered around the kids who were using the ski jump. And he said the boys who are training there each day have many harsh and professional instructors. So they're getting critique from the earliest. Norwegians dominated the sport of ski jumping for decades. Norwegians won the first 6 Olympic gold medals from 1924 to 1952. And they certainly dominated ski jumping here in Washington as well. At the Seattle Ski Club's 1938 tournament, 7 out of 16 of the Class A jumpers that competed were from Kongsberg. Many of them grew up within a few blocks of each other. And Peter Hugstad, who won the Olympic gold in '48, was asked what was easier, winning an Olympic gold or winning the Holmenkollen. He said, well, there's no question. In the Olympics, you jump against 4 Norwegians. In the Holmenkollen, you face 50. And of course, the Norwegians brought the sport to this country. There's a lot of information in the book about the number of Nordic and Norwegian immigrants, both to the United States and to the Northwest. And ski jumping in this country was initially started in the Midwest, Minnesota, Michigan, and Wisconsin early on. And they didn't have large hills, but they had steep hills and enough vertical drop to make a very good ski jumping areas using oftentimes the natural terrain of the hill. The first recognized meet in this country was in Minnesota in 1887. And Michigan had actually 30 ski clubs that were all focused on ski jumping by the end of the 1890s. The National Ski Association started in this country in 1905 to regulate competition. They set the rules on design of ski jumps and how to judge. And of course, as we all know, ski jumpers are just for both distance and form. Again, another quote from Anson is great. Norwegians brought to their new country a passion for skiing. They organized ski competitions to showcase their ethnic ties and generate a new sense of belonging to their country. It was said whenever 2 or 3 Norwegians gathered together, they constructed a jump and held competitions. And that was very true in the Northwest, as a whole wave of new clubs were organized along the coastal mountains. I love different people's perspective on ski jumping. How many of you watched The Wide World of Sports back in the 60s through the 90s? The agony of defeat, showing the drama of athletic competition. My first view of ski jumping was this poor Yugoslavian jumper they showed every week for 20 years, falling off the end of that jump. And this is still shots, and you can get it online live, and it's still chilling to watch. And that was certainly the first view of ski jumping for myself and many, many people in this country. And there are a lot of other quotes about attitudes. Ski jumping is a breathtaking risk of life and limbs on skis, according to the Seattle Times. And Warren Miller said ski jumping takes courage, or low IQ. I included in the book, and we'll have it in this exhibit as well, descriptions of various jumpers about why they jump, how they jump, and their lack of fear. Torbjørn Egeseth, who was on the Norwegian 1960 Olympic team and was an exchange student at the UW, was quoted in the Seattle Times. He scoffed at the idea of being afraid of flying the length of a football field on skis. It's not really as dangerous as downhill skiing. You're only going 60 miles an hour at top speed. As you follow the curve of the hill, you're never more than 20 feet high, and there are no trees to wrap yourself around. You'll land at 40 miles an hour. Some skiers land so gently, they don't even leave a mark in the snow. No reason to be afraid at all. Now I'll give you just a quick overview of ski jumping in Washington before we jump into kind of a chronological approach. For many years in the Northwest, in the early days, ski jumping was the most popular form of the sport. That was true nationally and internationally as well. The first Winter Olympic Games started in 1924, and from 24 to 32, the only skiing events were Nordic. Alpine skiing didn't appear in the Olympics until 1936. And certainly in the state of Washington, for the first 2 or 3 decades of the sport, ski jumping was by far the most important form, largely because of our Nordic community. And beginning in 1929, our state had a circuit of ski jumping tournaments run by various ski clubs that formed. And they were started at Cle Elum, Leavenworth, Mount Hood in Oregon, and the Milwaukee Ski Bowl at Hyack on Snoqualmie Pass. And these areas were not just a local circuit, they were part of a national circuit. And the best ski jumpers in the world would come to Washington to compete against our jumpers. And similarly, our ski jumpers would go up and down the coast and throughout the whole nation, because it was really an integrated national circuit. And again, the world's best jumpers came here over the many decades. People like Nelson and Ivan Nelson, who were Canadian champions in the early 20s. The Three Musketeers of Vancouver, Mo Broughton, Caldal, and Solvet in the 1930s. And Portland jumpers like John Elverum and Hjalmar Vam. And the international stars came here for many years. Olaf and Sigurd Uland, Sigmund and Birger Ruud, Radar Anderson, Alf and Sverre Engen, Torger Tokla, and many, many others. In general, the late 30s were kind of the high point of ski jumping in this country, although it continued in this state, although it continued for several decades after that. Things changed after World War II. Olaf Uland had a long article in the American Ski Journal in 1947, lamenting the fact that many of our original Norwegian immigrants were getting older. They were dropping out of competitive skiing or jumping in the senior category, and the next generation was not stepping up to replace them. He said the boys are interested in jumping, they're not interested in doing the work necessary to maintain the hills. But what saved and expanded ski jumping after World War II was an influx of Norwegian exchange students, led by Gustav Ramm, who I'm sure many of you knew around here. He was a pillar of the community. Ramm himself wrote about the Scandinavians that competed here, and he listed 56 exchange students who competed in Northwest, 41 in Washington. And they really brought a rebirth to the sport of ski jumping after World War II. The Milwaukee Ski Bowl, which was really the center of our ski jumping before the war and shortly after the war, it burned down the lodge burned down in 1949 and closed in 1950. And that was really a dramatic end to kind of the high point of ski jumping in our state. However, ski jumping continued until 1978 at Leavenworth and continued to bring in the best ski jumpers in the world and host a number of national championship tournaments and Olympic selection committees. And overall, our record is very impressive here. Northwest Ski Area has hosted regional tryouts for Olympic teams in 31, 36, 63, and 72, and final team selections for the Olympic jumping teams in 1948, 59, and 72. We had 7 national championship tournaments here, and 6 national distance records were set here: 39, 41, 49, 65, 67, and 70. So I think there are very few other places in the country that have a more impressive record of ski jumping. We had, in addition to competitors, we had a number of people who were involved in promoting ski jumping. Ryder Yomi was one of the first. Herman and Magnus Baki over at Leavenworth. Of course, Olaf Ullin for many, many years, and Gustav Rahm, and Yomar Vam from Portland. They worked for many years, both in the to support the clubs to which they belong and promoting ski jumping in general. And in 1954, there was a major change. Seattle Ski Club, that was formed by Norwegians originally around ski jumping, lost its the sport, and a group of hardy Norwegian jumpers, led by Olof and Gus, and a number of others left to form the Konsberger Ski Club, because they felt a new club was necessary to promote ski jumping. They built a ski area and a jump near Cabin Creek, which is just east of Snoqualmie Pass. And over the years, they held competitions, coached jumping, provided officials for local and national and international tournaments. And Olaf was a coach on the international scene, coached the 56 Olympic team and the 58 World Championship team. And the Konsbergers ran the ski jumping events at Lake Tahoe Olympics and also in the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics. So our Northwestern Norwegians really had influence internationally. Again, in terms of an overview, we had a number of our homegrown competitors that competed internationally. The upper left is Ragnar Uland, who was Olaf's nephew, and he was on the 56 Olympic team. It was coached by his uncle. Leavenworth's Jim Brennan on the upper right. He was a national champion in 1960, tied the national distance record, competed internationally went to the 1960 Worlds in Portland and competed also in Japan. Leavenworth's Ron Steele was, you can see in the 2 lower pictures, was on the 72 Olympic team in Sochi and was a terrific competitor and ski jumper at the University of Utah for many years. So that's kind of the big overview of what ski jumping over the decades was like. As I say in the book, ski jumping was followed intensely by all of our local newspapers. The best ski jumpers were kind of treated like professional football quarterbacks are now. They were well known to the public. They had articles written about them. And our local papers covered not only skiing and ski jumping in the state, but throughout the country and the world. This is just one example. Seattle Times of February 22nd, 1939, had 7 articles about skiing and ski jumping. And any of you read the sports pages now, it's rare to find any coverage of skiing. Railroads were also great promoters of skiing and ski jumping because it was great business. Milwaukee Railroad that went over Snoqualmie Pass took people to the Milwaukee Ski Bowl tournaments and also the Beaver Lake tournaments. Northern Pacific that went over Stampede Pass took spectators to the Cle Elum tournaments, and Great Northern that went over Stevens Pass took people to the Leavenworth tournaments. Keep in mind, ski jumping was a tough sport. These were tough guys who drove on icy roads for many, many hours to get to the facilities. And once they were there, they had to hike in long distances to get to the jumping sites. When they were skiing in Mount Rainier, it was a 1 mile hike up from Narada Falls to Paradise. Cle Elum was a steep 2 mile hike up to the top of the ridge. And the Snoqualmie summit is anywhere from 3/4 of a mile to 1.25 miles up to the Beaver Lake jumps. So they had to climb up those steep areas carrying heavy jumping skis. And once they're up there, as you can see from these pictures, they had to hike up hills a long way to get to the top of jumping site. This picture is Leavenworth, or where there were scaffolds. They had to climb steep scaffolds to get to their jumps. So this was a very physically demanding sport, but it was also a spectator sport. And that's an important thing to consider. Our Scandinavian community here were great supporters of ski jumping. And we regularly had 5,000 to 10,000 people attending our tournaments. Again, driving long distances on icy roads, hiking the 1 to 2 miles into the ski jumping sites, and then standing all day in the snow, watching the competition. These two pictures on the left-hand side were taken 1933 in Cle Elum. This was the start of the 2 mile hike up the ridge. And this is what it was like standing all day for 6 hours in a snowstorm. And these two pictures on the right give you an idea of the kind of crowds that the tournament attracted. This top one is 1931 on Snoqualmie Pass. And that was the regional tryouts for the 32 Olympic team. And this is Snoqualmie Pass here. You can imagine trying to get through there in the middle of the tournament. This is 1934, another Seattle Ski Club tournament, where there were 5,000 cars parked on the highway. And the ski club actually had buses that would go up and down and bring people in. But that was how popular the sport was. If you want to go to the beginning here, ski jumping started in Spokane in 1917. 1913, when Olas Jelnes ran the first, he called it a ski jumping and running tournament on Browns Mountain just outside of Spokane. He had helped start the Revelstoke Winter Carnival in 1899 that was had ski jumping earlier. Coming to the West Coast, or the west part of the state, the first ski jumping we had was in February 1916 on Queen Anne Hill in Seattle. That was still the heaviest snowfall Seattle's ever experienced. And the Norwegian community decided to hold an exhibition. That was a great hit. And writer Yomi won it, and he helped organize ski tournaments for the next 2 decades in other locations. Between 1970 and 24, we had miniature summer tournaments on Mount Rainier at Paradise. And it was said to be the second place in the world after Finse, Norway, where the finest skiing could be obtained in the summer months. And there were only 50 people that showed up in 1917, but ultimately the crowd grew to 1,500 by 1923. We even saw women ski jumpers. Olga Bolstead showed up in 1917, a recent immigrant, and caused a sensation. She actually won the tournament, and she was the most popular ski jumper, certainly in the Northwest after that, got great ski coverage. She was called the champion of the Pacific Coast on skis. And the next year when she lost, it was so surprising, it led to this wonderful headline here: "Man defeats woman in a ski tournament." Cle Elum Ski Club had formed in 21 and held tournaments from 1924 to 33. Again, it was a 2-mile walk or hike from Cle Elum up to the ridge top. And these are some of their original tournaments where they were jumping just off a jump that they made in the snow. 1929 is when jumping really expanded in the state of Washington because new ski clubs formed. The Seattle Ski Club was formed by Norwegian immigrants on Snoqualmie Summit with a jump at Beaver Lake. The Leavenworth Winter Sports Club formed and built a ski jump at Leavenworth. And Portland's Cascade Ski Club formed with a jump on Mount Hood. And you can see from this little map, starting at Leavenworth, the next week skiing at Cle Elum, week after that at Portland, the week after that at March at Seattle Ski Club on Snoqualmie Pass. So here, every week, you had a different tournament, spaced far apart from Snoqualmie Pass and Leavenworth down to Portland. And yet the same group of jumpers and the same group of spectators would go because they were so dedicated to the sport. And then beginning in 1939, the Milwaukee Railroad opened the first modern ski area at Hyack on Snoqualmie Pass in 1938. And fall of 39, they built world-class ski jumps at Hyack to use in 1940 four-way championships that were held here. So after 40, that became a big part of the circuit for the ski jumpers. Here are just some examples and pictures of ski jumping at Beaver Lake. You can see they had the in-run and out-run were using the natural terrain of the slope. And they had, again, up to 5,000 to 10,000 people who took that 1-mile hike. The jump was said to be one of the steepest landings in the world, 3 to 4 degrees steeper than the famous Holmenkollen Hill in Norway. These are a few shots of Leavenworth Winter Sports Club that began in 1929. Here's one of the original jumps that, again, a mound in the snow. And in 1930, they moved to their present location. And this is the 1930 tournament that had several thousand people. This is how it expanded with a Class A and Class B jump. This was taken in 1938 when Alf Engen set a new hill record there. And this had the great benefit of being able to, people could take the train to Leavenworth and take a bus or a taxi directly to the hill. There was no hiking. And they had national championship events there, 4 of them, Olympic team tryouts, and a number of distance records. This is the big jump at Cle Elum that was built in 1932. And you could see the work that's necessary to get up and down it. We had other women ski jumpers, girl ski jumpers as they were called, in all the clubs. And in 1932, there was 33, we had a Norwegian ski jumper, Joanna Kolstad, come and do exhibition jumps. Let me just jump ahead to the glory days of ski jumping from 1937 to World War II. We had some of the most important tournaments here. All the world's best jumpers came, and there was an intense battle to set new distance records that was played out here in Washington. And one of the classic skiers who came here and competed regularly was Alf Engen. He was one of the best and best known jumpers in the day. And he showed with his 500 trophies that he took home over the course of his career. Just a few illustrations of how intense the battle was. In 1937, Sigmund Ruud and Alf Engen fought it out for a national championship at Ecker Hill in Salt Lake City. Alf set a new new distance record, thinking he won it. Although when they recalculated the score sheets, it turns out that Sigmund Ruud won and not Alf. And in 37, all the greats that were at the national championship came to the Snoqualmie National, the tournament at Snoqualmie Summit and competed. And it was a gathering of greats from Kongsberg. Big event in Northwest ski jumping in late 37. Olaf Ullin moved here from Kongsberg, recruited to coach ski jumping here, and he became a mainstay of both competition and in the field of ski jumping thereafter. 38, Sigmund and Birger Ruud competed at Snoqualmie Summit, part of a national tour. 8 to 10,000 people showed up, and they put on a demonstration that the local community never forgot. Ryder Anderson and Torger Tokla came in 39 and competed all over the country, including here. And in 39, there was huge battles fought out here for the distance records. At Leavenworth in 39, Sigurd Uland, Olaf's brother, shown here, who was a 38 national championship, set a new distance record. But 2 hours later, Alf Engen beat him at Big Pines, California. And this is Ryder Anderson competing here in the Northwest. We had indoor jumping championship in the Civic Arena. In 1940, we had the four-way championship here. Downhill and slalom were at Mount Baker, cross country at Snoqualmie Pass, and jumping at the new giant world-class jumps at the Milwaukee Ski Bowl. And the big battle was between Alf Engen and Torger Tokla. Tokla had a longer jump, but Alf won on points, and he was the national four-way champion. 41, we had the national jumping championship at Snoqualmie Pass. And again, it was the battle for the distance records. In February, Alf Engen set a distance record in Michigan of 267 feet. 2 hours later at Leavenworth, Tokla beat his record and jumped 273 feet. At a national jumping tournament at Milwaukee Ski Bowl, he jumped 288 feet to set the third national distance record in a couple of weeks. I mentioned ski jumping changed after World War II. The old timers were dropping out, but they were basically saved by the Norwegian exchange students. Here we see Gus Vraum, pictures supplied by his family. He was a junior Holmenkollen champion from Norway and was talked into staying here after he jumped at Snoqualmie Pass and attended the UW, where he led the ski team and became a mainstay of Northwest ski jumping after that. We had the 48 National Jumping Championships. Actually in 47, we selected the U.S. jumping team here at Snoqualmie Pass. 48, we had the National Jumping Championships. And 49, another distance record was set at Milwaukee Ski Bowl. This is a wonderful picture. To me, it indicates the changing of the guard. It shows Olaf Ullin, Gust Ram, Alf Engen, and Kjell Stordalen jumping in December 1948 at Sun Valley. And Alf and Olaf were at the end of their careers, and Gus and Kjell were at the beginning of their careers. So this really represents the changing of the guard. Let me just finish by saying quickly summarizing the fact that in 1950, the ski bowl lodge burned down and the world-class jumping hill was closed, and it was a real setback for Washington skiing, both alpine and jumping. But Leavenworth became the epicenter of ski jumping in Washington till 1978. The hill was completely redesigned in 50 and 57 by the Bockies. So they were able to hold national jumping tournament in 59, 67, 74, and 78. And again, we had major tournaments in the state of Washington at Leavenworth, and all the best jumpers in the world came. This is a picture of Ragnar Uland on the left, winning the junior championships in 55, and he was on the U.S. ski team. Just jumping ahead here, between 65 and 70, 3 national distance records were set at Leavenworth. 2 by Norwegians and 1 by a U.S. jumper. There are 2 of the Norwegians in 65 and 67. Bjorn Frukvold seemed to soar forever. And the Seattle Times said, no one on this continent has ever traveled further on 2 slim strips of plywood. There's Ron Steele competing in Sapporo, Japan. And 1978 was the last tournament at Leavenworth, the last major tournament. It was a national championship. And that was a sad end to jumping. But by this point, ski jumping had faded throughout the country. Ski jumping tournaments had been halted at most of the other forums. And this was a remarkable end to a huge tradition in the state of Washington. Leavenworth that went back to 1929 and ended in 1978. That's what Leavenworth looks like now. Bocky Hill is still there. They tried to rejuvenate it, and Shell Bocky, Magnus's son, did a lot of work to try to rejuvenate it. But it's a little community ski area now, a wonderful facility, but no longer a ski jumping facility. We have 8 people from the Northwest in the U.S. Ski Snowboard Hall of Fame for their jumping. Vom, Elvron, Bocky, and the Bocky brothers. Earl Little, also from Leavenworth, and Gus Rahm and Olaf Uland. Well, that's it. If you're interested in some of the other books I've written, here are 3. Early Skiing on Snoqualmie Pass really talks about alpine skiing. And this last year, I wrote and published 2 books about Sun Valley, including the major tome of the history of the Sun Valley Resort. So Eric, let me stop it there, and I'll answer any questions if you'd like. And I hope you'll both consider buying the book and coming to the exhibition when it starts on April 17th at the National Nordic Museum.
John, thank you so much for that great talk, and thanks for being here tonight. And we do have a couple of questions that have come in here, and the first one is, what are the sizes of the 2 hills, the high hill and the high jump and the low jump? What are the 2 heights of those?
At Leavenworth in particular?
Yes, that'd be good. Yes, I think that's what they meant.
It changed over the years. It was the big hill was an 80-meter hill for many years, and it was in 1960 it was lengthened to a 90-meter hill, which is the maximum, because there was the Squaw Valley Olympics were held shortly after Leavenworth beat, and there were several Olympic teams that came to compete at Leavenworth. So they enhanced the size of it. The small one is probably a 40-meter, Again, it changed over the years. The Baki brothers, particularly Hermod, worked diligently at Leavenworth, and they were constantly improving the hills. But it was they were called the Class A and Class B jumps, and the Class B was probably around a 40-meter.
Excellent, thank you for that. And then another question, someone's asking if there is any ski jumping remaining in Washington State. This person remembered ski jumping at Mission Ridge some years ago.
There were actual, back in the day, many of the ski areas had ski jumping. Mount Baker, Spokane, Mission Ridge had it. Magnus Baki was the person who developed the hill there. White Pass had it for a while. There's nothing left in terms of actual ski jumping. The community ski area at Leavenworth has 10 and 20-meter small jumps now, and they're really used as part of the alpine and downhill skiing training program. They're not used for ski jumping per se. But unfortunately, the picture of the Baki Hill slowly deteriorating is kind of the sad end to the formal ski jumping we had that was so popular for so many decades here in Washington.
Well, thank you very much, John. Really appreciate, those are the questions we have, but thank you so much for joining us this evening. And then we do have a gift for you that I will give you when I next see you or get to you in the mail, and that's our Tusen Talk troll to thank you for being our guest speaker this evening, and really appreciate that. And then if you could stop sharing your screen, we'll move on to the final part of our meeting. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. And now I'll turn the meeting back over to President Debbie Larson.
Thank you so much, John. That was very interesting. We really enjoyed hearing about how Washington was a big part of ski jumping. So now it's time to do the drawing, and Corey is here to assist me on that. We are going to be spinning the drum here for 3 names. And again, that phone number is 425-802-0679. All right, the first name I have is Katrina Svasson. Second name I have is Indy or John Vetting. And the third one, Dr. Nina Spino, DDS. So we have 3 names, Katrina Svasson, John Vetting, and Nina Spino. Call the number I read, 425-802-0679, and whoever calls first wins the $20. And thank you so much. And we look forward to having you again next month. What is the date of that? I did not put that down on my notes. So it will be March, probably the same because it's the 28th. So it's March 25th. It should be March 25th. Yeah.
Check your email.
Check your email. And again, if you enjoyed the social hour and would like to do it again, we're taking volunteers to run that, I think. And then that would happen right before our meeting of the 25th. If not, we will see how it goes and maybe do it again in April. But we will keep you up to date on if we're going to be continuing to do these virtually. My thought is probably through the end of this season. And if there's any word on Fisherman's Night, we will let you know. We had talked about doing that in May, but it all depends on the restrictions, and we will hear about that and let you know. So thank you for being here with us tonight. We look forward to seeing you again. Good night.
Thank you.